Welcome to Breaking Boundaries, where we dive into the myths shaping tomorrow. Today's guest, I have Yan with me. An evil genius is the best possible way. Even is a front-end developer. He is a full-stack architect and design who builds clean, scalable, and designing experience without a blot. Let's unpack the code behind this. I have the man Yan. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
So far, so good. Thank you so much for asking. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your precious time. I just want to know more about the business, more about you, so that, whenever there's any startups or any business listeners tuning into us, they can get in touch with you in regards to any of your, services. So
Sure.
tell the viewers more.
Yeah, well, I think we should probably start by contextualizing the Evil Genius part, which is the name of my business is Evil Genius Creative. Just because I'm a little different than a lot of people. I think that, I like to put a lot of fun into things. I like to do things just a little bit different. And that just seemed to fit me, kind of like.
Awesome. So your brand yourself is a no-blast developer, okay? What does that mean in today's landscape?
Yeah, well, a lot of tools that are available out there will build things for you, or a lot of things for you, and you can drag and drop. But, kind of like when I started many, many years ago and I was using Dreamweaver to connect to databases or API, they would just put an incredible amount of extra code in there to cover every use case, even if that wasn't your use case. So doing no bloat means you have to know what it is that you want. You have to have an idea of what you're creating and why, and for the client and for the users especially. And from there, create what you do and do it as cleanly as possible, and then edit, chip away everything until you have something like Michelangelo.
Fantastic, fantastic. So from UI UX to full stack builds, right? How do you balance creative design with a clear engineering?
Yeah, well, I think the thing is, as someone who does both UX design and UX engineering, it gives me a nice perspective because, if I'm on a team, not only can I speak to the designers and the developers and the marketers and the client, but it gives me a unique perspective in that I understand, what we want to do and what's possible. And so I don't really, sometimes I switch hats a little bit, but mostly whatever I'm doing, I'm always thinking about how it affects the user. And so having that in my history helps me to always have the best possible experience in mind, whether I'm designing something or whether I'm coding something. Add a little bit of user interface, add a little bit of interaction, or just
Add
make
some
things more
magic, as I say. Add some
confusing.
magic.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
much of the internet is very confusing.
So that's true. And user experience has to be the best vision to showcase the application or the website, whatever solution it is. If a
Exactly.
user is happy, everything is happy.
Exactly. You just want to make sure the user knows what to do and does what you as the business person wants them to do.
True, 100%. You worked with startups, agencies, and corporate. What kind of challenges excites you the most today?
I like startups. I like small businesses a lot. I think those are the most interesting because there's the most room for creativity and the
100%.
most room for creating something from scratch. When you're working with an agency, God bless you guys, but it's crazy. It's just really, really high pressure, really short deadlines, and I just don't like to work with that. And when you're working with a corporation, that's very nice. It's very stable, but there's not nearly as much room for any creativity because a lot of the structures have already been put in place and you kind of fit
You
yourself
to
into
follow the
them.
structures given by them. That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I love small businesses and I love startups.
Awesome. So now you also get a place where you can showcase your creativity, which gonna be scalable for their business as well. There's always,
Exactly.
a great intent. Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you go to evilgeniuscreative.com, you can see my portfolio.
Perfect. Awesome. Which one project that pushed your limits and made you better?
Well, for a long time, I worked with a content management system called Khoros, which is a community content management system. And it was built using Velocity, which is a Java templating script language that's sort of like, what's the other one? There's another one that Java has that I'm blanking on right now. And it's even worse than that and more limited. So there is always a challenge in trying to get what you needed out in FreeMarker into the browser from the server. And so probably the most interesting job I've done was creating one of the things I love to do is making things do what they're not supposed to do. So, for example, I created an entire ad server using JavaScript and JSON, using the framework of the content management system, and put that on top of it. And it was, completely not something that was ever meant to be done, but I did that and
Awesome.
did it in a way that the marketing people could just put in information and get little ads on the side as they needed it.
Awesome. So are you also into CRM, ERP solution, SaaS product, or you have your own, inventions?
I mean, I can work in all of those things. I mean, obviously, I've worked in both CRM with Koros and SaaS with also Koros or Jump or some other things. I definitely prefer working on smaller jobs than larger jobs. They give me a lot more freedom, and also I prefer the relationship with the client that you have when you have a smaller client.
Perfect. That is very, very true. How do you stay ahead of, consistent evolving front-end frameworks and performance standards, because things are getting updated on a daily basis, okay? How do you keep on updating yourself?
I don't stay ahead of it. I stay just behind of it, in fact, because I think what happens is, there are some people who like the bleeding edge of technology, but the problem is I'm a pragmatist. I do this for, my job, for my work, not for research. So I usually stay behind about a year or so to see what actually survives and what doesn't. And at that point, I might take a look at something beforehand, say, oh, that's interesting. And then I'll just wait and see whether it's just a flash in the pan or whether it's something that's actually staying and changing the way that in the internet or programming is done, like machine learning or what
Right.
people like to call
So
AI.
yeah, you basically believe in matrix, right?
And what?
Correct. You believe in matrix, correct? Like what's the number, what the data says. Then
I
step
do.
into it.
I do. I believe in the data, and I also just believe in taking a step back and seeing what happens because, hype is easy to do, but it's hard to follow through on.
Very true for a long-term goal. That is very, very true.
Hmm.
So tell me something, okay? Remote work, solo hustle, or agencies. Which setup gives you the best version of you?
I really like remote work and a little bit of hybrid. Like I like to work mostly from home. I have a toddler, I have a nice home, I have a home studio.
Proper setup.
I do voiceover sometimes as well, and as well as industrial and corporate readings and e-learnings and things. So I have this entire audio setup and it's very peaceful down here. And I can go up and make myself a sandwich but I like to go into the office once in a while and just meet people in person. It's a lot harder when you're completely remote. I think that there's a certain connection you don't get with the people you work with. So
So hybrid is
probably
the way
hybrid.
to come
Yeah,
up with the best solution.
yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. So how do you avoid burnout in a field that demands deep focus and consistent learning?
Boundaries. You have to have boundaries. And by that I mean like you have to, the work will suck you dry if you let it because there's always something else that needs to get done. And you could stay up 24/7 and never finish whatever project you're in the middle of and it always trying to make something more perfect or work better. And you just have to have good boundaries. Like I work, 10 to 5, 10 to 6, and I take breaks in between and I take vacations and I don't work on weekends. And
Awesome.
I think a lot of people don't do those sort of things. They just work 60, 70-hour weeks and that will definitely burn you out. So having a real work-life balance, not just, paying lip service to it, makes a big difference.
Right. Awesome. Perfect. That's a very good thing. What do you think the next frontier is for front-end development?
Well, I mean, I think obviously it's machine learning and what they call artificial intelligence because it can do a tremendous amount. I mean, I use it in my work and it is like an assistant and it can do a tremendous amount, but it also doesn't truly understand human beings. So it's really good for creating large structures or debugging or kind of intractable problems, but it's really not good at understanding what works with people. And oftentimes it'll get caught in some kind of a loop and trying to fix something. It's like it'll do, "Oh, well, I need to do this. Well, that's not working. Well, I need to do this. Yeah, well, that's not working. Then I need to do it." So they just kind of do ABC, ABC, ABC over and over again. And, that's where the expertise of, having years of experience comes in, is that you can, all right, well, that's not working. Let's figure out what actually the problem is. And there have been many times when I've been working with the machine learning and I'll have to say, okay, well, why don't you do this with this suggestion using this sort of model and that? And they'd be like, wow, that's a great idea. I'm like, why, thank you, computer. But I think a lot of times, they are stuck in what they've learned. And part of the problem with computers is they don't have an imagination. They can't think outside the box.
Right, that is true. That is very, very true, no? So, what's your 3-year plans? More work, product building, or something entirely new? What you focusing on?
Well, a little bit of everything. Definitely more work with clients. I love doing that. I have a few projects that I'm working on that are not necessarily money-making projects, but would be very good nonprofit projects that I could be a part of
Okay.
that would do a lot of good in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have some other things that I'm working on as well. Right now, I'm getting a master's degree in health informatics. And so I plan to bring the medical world and health back, into what
The
I do
healthcare.
and bring what I do into that. A lot of data visualization, making data make sense, making usability make sense.
Great, great. All the best for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. If you think about your interaction, the last interaction you had with any sort of medical provider, usually online, it's terrible, even offline. And so finding a way to make those flows, to make those designs, to make those experiences as smooth and invisible as you can, I think is one of the new frontiers.
Perfect. Awesome. So Jan, what's your suggestion for newcomers?
My suggestion,
Yes.
I'd say the biggest thing you probably need to do is not try to be a programmer anymore and try to focus on learning how to work with machine learning and AI, prompt engineering, working in actually very high level machine learning programming or design, data visualization, data mining. But I think that the job of, generic programmer is fading out over the next 10 years.
Perfect. So you suggest everyone should be a prompt engineer, right? Rather than a developer, correct?
A prompt engineer, designer, anything that needs human input rather than something that a computer can do. And they can do a lot of things, but anything that needs imagination, anything that needs thinking outside of the box, anything that needs to guide computers in ways that they are not capable of themselves.
Perfect. So all right, Jan, it's time for a rapid fire. One line answers only. All right.
Okay,
So what's your favorite place? Tapes or spaces?
bases.
Awesome. Coffee or code at 2 p.m.?
Sleeping.
Sleeping. That's the best thing. One app that you cannot, live without.
Well, my IDE, like IntelliJ, possibly Photoshop also.
Perfect. And which app delete from your mobile right now, right away?
Which app would I delete from my mobile right away?
Yes. Yeah.
Facebook.
Why is that? Is it getting so much of interaction? And is it creating with a
Facebook,
buzz?
Amazon, I just, I don't think these things are good for the world, and I don't think they're good for people and of yourself.
True, true. Too much of works. Too
Yeah,
much
I
of
think they're
works.
very addictive. I think they take away from interacting with the real world and real people.
That is true. Worst client feedback you have ever received?
Thank you. I mean, I'd say, this turned out so much better than I ever thought it would. I think that's probably the best compliment.
Awesome. What's the best compliment on your work?
I really like it when people say, "Wow, that's really creative. I never would have thought of doing that."
Working from a bench or from a mountain cabin?
Uh, Probably a mountain. I don't know. It's hard. They both sound good, to be honest. How about a mountain cabin near a beach?
That is awesome. First thing you would automate in your entire life.
God, I wish I could get like Rosie the robot to clean the house.
That would be very easy for everybody.
Yeah.
That is very true. If you aren't a tech guy, what would you be been doing as of now?
So what sort of things do I do to keep myself busy?
If you're not a tech person,
If I
what
were
would your
not a tech
occupation?
person, what would I do?
Yes.
Probably some sort of service job like medicine, or music, frankly. I'm a musician. I love music. If I could afford it, I would probably do it full time, you know. But
All the
also,
best for
you know,
that
I
as
love
well.
medicine. I used to be a nurse, and that's kind of always been my first love.
Finish this sentence, breaking boundaries mean. What does breaking boundaries means to you?
Well, breaking boundaries means, thinking beyond what you're used to, is saying, well, how else can we do this? This is how we normally do it. What else? We've got, you know what it's like? It's like when you're making a movie and they say, okay, we've got one in the can. Let's do one more take. And in that case, you just go crazy. And I think that's what it is. It's just like you got the thing that you need to have. Let's try something that just sounds crazy and see how it works out.
Awesome. It was amazing chatting with you,
You
Jan.
too.
That was Jan, minimalistic, maximist, and a true craftsman. If
Thank
you're
you.
a founder, builder, or business owner looking to scale the right way, Jan is your guy. Follow him at evilcreative.com and
Evil Genius Creative. Evil Genius Creative.
evilgeniuscreative.com. And if you're ready to break more boundaries, subscribe to our channel for every single content coming up your way. Thank you so much, Ian. It was amazing chatting with you, and
Thank you.
it's my pleasure to have you on this podcast.
Thank you. Me too. Take
Perfect.
care.
And Ian, I'll also tag your website, your Instagram, your Facebook on this video so that people can get in touch with you. Evilgeniuscreative.com is the way to get.
EvilGeniusCreative.com. And then there are different ones for the different social media. Unfortunately, I couldn't always get the same thing. So
Okay. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
email or phone. I'm kind of old fashioned. I like a phone call.
Awesome.
But,
Perfect.
you can text me, you can email me, you can call me.
I'll put your email as well.
All
Awesome.
right.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. You have awesome day. Bye bye for
Thank you.
now.
You too. Take care. Bye bye.